and Julie as well. So is there anyone else that has joined us? I know Joe Hanley is on the phone. So
I am. Hello, everybody.
hi there. Thanks for joining. So I'll call the meeting to order, and I'll begin with roll call. I'm going to skip Dick right now. Dr. Copeland.
Here.
Danielle Angeliri. She is here.
Present, sorry.
Okay. Linda Sandquist is absent. Dr. Giardini.
Here.
Dr. Gorski.
Here.
Julie Morris will be joining. And we have Wendy Bennett. She's joining. And Jay Ware.
I'm here.
Great. So we'll move on to the approval of the minutes. I know that Danielle sent them from the June 3rd meeting. So I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Good, here's
Second.
that. Okay, we have a motion to approve in a second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed?
Aye.
Fine. Okay. Do we have anyone here for public comment? I did not get notified, but okay. So we'll move on to the preliminary budget, and I'm so glad that Dr. Copeland is with us. I just want to give you a little background on this. After our last meeting, given that we all received the proposal, at least I forward the service agreement from R1, and our needs at hand are administrative in terms of distributing the environmental scan, developing our strategic plan, mission, vision, creating RFPs, and then also establishing a website. I thought that I would discuss initially with Marilyn Height Ross, because her office developed the resolution that the county board eventually approved to create our board. And in order for our board to do the work that the county board created us to do, we absolutely need funding up front. So when I talked to Marilyn, she expressed a great support for that and suggested that we develop a preliminary budget. And given what the costs of getting someone to actually manage the day-to-day and help us move forward all of the agenda items I just listed, meaning R1, we saw the cost. And so I thought the proposed $45,000 for 3 months would be a logical first step. And Marilyn suggested that I talk with the city administrator, which I did, Steve Chapman, and explain to him that we were contemplating asking for upfront money that would be paid back in October when the money started coming in. So I talked to Ed, our treasurer, and he suggested that he just develop a preliminary budget for $45,000. It's very simple. And he sent me a copy yesterday, and he sent Dr. Gorski a copy. And referring back to the conversation that I had with Marilyn, she indicated that once we developed and once the board approved the $45,000, the preliminary budget, whatever it's going to be, that we then send it to you, Paul, and she would direct you to accompany our preliminary budget with the resolution to the finance committee, indicating that in order for this board to do any work, we need some funding. And so I don't know, you probably had the conversation with Marilyn, Paul, about that.
We had some conversations. I didn't get the specific plan like
Okay.
that. That sounds reasonable and what
Okay.
to talk about.
So and then at the same time, Steve Chapman thought the amount of money that we were asking for upfront was reasonable. So Ed put together just a preliminary budget, and it's pretty straightforward. And what we are asking for is in advance for $45,000. It would allow us to contract with Region 1 Planning Council, and that we would receive the administrative technical support that we need, the website environmental scan release, and the RFP development along with strategic planning. So I'm bringing this forward to the board for discussion and for approval, because I've listed this as needing action. We can't wait another month and do nothing in between. And just giving you an idea of the volume of work. I mean, Dick Kunert, he is like working day and night. And I feel that it's very top-ended, front-loaded kind of expertise that's needed. And so we feel this is kind of an immediate request of the board. I feel, I can't speak for anyone else, and that's why we need discussion on the matter.
So you're just asking for our approval that we think it's a good idea to upfront us 45,000 and start working from there?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a problem with that. I think it's a great idea. I think that's what we should be doing. Yeah, we need to be up and running. Absolutely. I have no qualms with it.
I concur. I think it's pretty straightforward. We have to get started.
Mm-hmm.
I agree, Mary Ann. Can Jason get started right away?
He certainly can.
Good.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. They're just waiting. Actually, the service agreement that is on the agenda next, it is like a year-long service agreement. They amended that because I told Jason that we were going to discuss the service agreement today, and also the time limit, that we were not in a position to contract for a year at this point, that 3 months would allow all of us to have kind of a probationary period in a sense, and they can see, we can kind of analyze their value added, and they feel the same way. And they're comfortable. So they changed in the agreement, they changed the time frame that it would only be for 3 months. So, but we're first on the budget. So if we are in agreement, we do need a motion to approve the preliminary budget, and then it will go to Paul, and hopefully then it'll go to the chairperson of the finance committee, Amy Salgado.
Have we seen the budget yet? Have you guys sent that? Did I miss it?
No, Ed, it was a preliminary budget. He just sent it to myself and Bill. I noticed that Bill was working on that with him. And so we would be very happy to, Ed, would you be able to send it to all the board members? I mean, now, is that possible?
Does the email thing work? I tried sending something to people and I don't think it worked.
Well, I don't know. It's such a, very simple document in terms of this preliminary budget. It actually, I mean, I could send it myself, I believe, because I put it in, but this is a document we should have probably uploaded and then had visible for everyone.
I'll make a motion. What do we need a motion for? I'll make it.
Can we make sure we have a member make it, not an advisory member?
Right.
Oh,
Mhm.
Hey,
Dick,
I make a motion.
you're on mute, Dick.
Dick, you're on mute. We can't hear you.
My wife, that'd be great. I would like, I would like to make a motion that we develop this preliminary budget of $45,000 that would take us from current July through October to take advantage of all administrative opportunities that we have to develop our board.
I'm in.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Yeah, Terry.
Gary? Okay. So we have a motion and we have a second to develop a preliminary budget that will be sent to Paul Carpenter once approved. So all those in favor of,
Can I raise a discussion point, Mary Ann?
yeah,
It's just a matter of semantics. I know Dick said develop. It actually is developed.
that's true.
I mean, it's here, and I know unfortunately the rest of you can't see it. And to Jay's point, it's very simple. It's $45,000 for 3 months advanced. I mean, that's the revenue side. The expense side breaks down into three $15,000 buckets. Ed put all this together, so it's zeroed out 45, 45. So I would just semantically say it's whoa. Oh, there we
Oh,
go.
there it is.
Ed knows how to
Oh,
do
yeah.
this. Ed.
You get the internet prize for the
He
day.
gets the
Oh,
tech support.
Good.
Yeah. Look at that.
That's simple.
For you, maybe.
Sorry,
Well, it's got a lot of words on it, so.
we can change whatever needs to be changed, like right now, and this is why I just put it in a Excel spreadsheet, because we said 45,000, and I didn't know if we wanted, Bill and I talked a little bit about, did we want, I didn't know how we wanted to break it up. I just did it like this, just so we can get something out there. So whatever we need to change, it's no problem, but the bottom line is, we're asking for 45,000, and it will be used for these three things that we said in the service agreement.
And I think that says it all. It's the beginning of the tech support. It's the development of the website, and it's the RFP. That's what we're going to do. That's
And the
perfect.
environmental scan release.
Right, right.
My only question now, you can look at something 3 times, and now I'm looking at it on a larger screen. And what I'm wondering, R1 is actually going to be taking care of all 3 of these categories for us. So I think that's good. Yeah, never mind. I think that's
Well, somebody who's some people who are budget wonks might, and that's not me. They would look at it and say, well, you've broken it down evenly into 3 buckets. What if one takes more than the other? I would say that's irrelevant. I like the way Ed did it, because at the end of the day, if it zeroes out at 45 and
right.
one's a little bit more than the other, that really, I don't think, I would be surprised if that mattered to the county, as long as it just zeroes out.
And I don't think that even the county is going to want to do the day-to-day oversight of us,
Yeah,
No,
So that's up to us.
agree, Wendy.
okay. Any other questions, discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the 2020 preliminary budget, actually, do we want to go back to the motion? Because the original motion was preliminary budget. It create one. So do you want to restate the motion, Dick?
Yeah, following Bill's suggestion, the motion would simply be, I move that we accept preliminary budget that would cover expenses from July through October for administrative services that the board needs.
Okay, I need a second.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
I
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Okay, it's passed. So thank you all for that. And thank you, Ed and Bill, for the work on that. I really appreciated it. We will then be sending that on to Paul Carpenter. So if you can do that, Ed, we would be very appreciative. Okay, moving on to the next agenda item, which is the R1 service agreement. And you all received that. And I'm opening it up for discussion. There is one clarification besides the change in the time frame from a year back to the 3 months. Jason wanted to provide a few points of clarification, anticipating questions from the board. The rate that they offer at $85 per hour is a discounted rate to standing members of Region 1 Planning Council that they are extending to our board based on the understanding and the current standing membership status of Winnebago County. It is at their at-cost rate for employment of staff. The other thing that he wanted us to be aware of is the use of administrative staff for administrative functions such as accounting. Any accountant is included in this. So for example, if Jason was preparing a report that required a use of administrative staff from R1, he would bill only for his time spent preparing the report, but would not be billing for the time of any other administrative staff. And then the third and final is that Region 1 Planning Council is agreeable to starting the work with a 3-month service agreement with the hope of moving towards a multi-year agreement in the future.
Should we add that to the contract language?
He did. He changed,
That it's expandable?
he changed the time frame in the actual service agreement. Is that what you?
To,
It was a year and he adjusted it to 3 months.
what I'm asking is, should it say 3 months initial period, subject to expansion for a full year by agreement of the parties, or something, Paul, Ed, like an option?
So you're asking if the contract would say 3 months now, if it should be like
Extendable, have that at the same rate, so that,
up to the board?
I don't know if that's necessary, just an idea.
I think what Jason and I talked about at the time of asking for a 3-month rather than any longer period, it's really giving us both an opportunity to say, yes, we want to extend it, or no, we do not. I mean, if as lawyers, that needs to be language that should be included, I can ask them to include that.
I don't know
I
that
agree
it,
with that. I like Wendy's. I mean, it seems to me to be really low risk to have some statement at the end, which the lawyers, which it seems like I've seen before, at the termination of the initial term of the agreement, the parties will have the option to extend upon agreement of both, or some such thing. I mean, just to have it in there would seem appropriate. Now, whether or not they'd agree to an ongoing the same rate or not, they may want something in there subject to negotiation or some other term, but would seem to be nice to have that there.
Ed, you were gonna say something?
I don't think it can go wrong either way. My preference would be for us to, if anything, maybe not necessarily make it extendable, but put some kind of provision, or it doesn't even have to be included in it, but just make sure that there's some kind of stated expectation that before this contract reaches its termination point, this agreement reaches its termination point, that we will have negotiated something else. The reason I say not necessarily extendable, because part of what we're doing is trying to see exactly what we want them to do. And we might only want them to do X out of the XYZ that we haven't, or we might want them to do WXYZ out of the XY. And so, though you can't go wrong either way, my personal preference would be just to do this and then have some kind of either stated expectation or whatever that we would, if we're going to move forward, we would negotiate that before the end of this one gets to its termination point.
Would one of the expert lawyers furnish the language, and then I can send that on to R1, because they are very willing to accept any minor changes. And what I'm hoping today is that we can decide about this service agreement, considering what we need to add in terms of language, and approve it based on that language being added.
You're nominating the only person who isn't a civil lawyer. Mary Ann and I can talk a little bit. I think I like the idea of, let's leave it open, saying the parties will renegotiate an extendable term before the end of this term, or something along that nature. Is that okay with everyone?
Yes.
And I'll run it by Paul before we.
If we decide to do so.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm wondering if we can we move forward with approval with some assumption of that added language? Mary Ann, what do you think?
Yes, that's what I'm hoping we can do today, rather than to wait another month.
Yeah, no.
Well, I would move approval.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Julie, second. Do we have further discussion? If so, those all in favor of accepting the service agreement from R1, please motion by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Okay, we have approved 2 of the big agenda items, and I have to thank you for moving on this. I think Dick and I will be delighted to move on now to the ordinance that is Dick's realm. And I'm going to let him speak to us on this very important issue. And I want to preface this by letting you know that actually we would like action taken on this today as well, because now we've reached some agreement on the language. So Dick, take it away.
Okay, thanks, man. So folks, I've sent this out to you. It has been a big help in getting us this far. But what we have before us with the ordinance is, you all know that we had a deficit in the existing ordinances for this mental health board. And what we needed was a piece that would, in effect, create a mirror of 708 that operates with the sales tax. And so that's what this is intended to do. It puts this board in a place where we become responsible for the planning, the development, and the implementation and monitoring of the care system that can result from the money gained through the sales tax. We need this ordinance to, again, take us to a place where we have created a legal entity which is like what all of us wanted to be part of. So that's the importance of this, and that we have to then take it up through the chain, through the finance committee first, and then with their endorsement, we have to then move on to the full board. Let me see if, so the big piece in this is, let's see. So if we come down here, if I can get it down,
Hey, Dick.
the critical, the big critical piece is, much of it is boilerplate, but this is the most important paragraph for us. So that be further ordained, shall control the expenditure of funds from the mental health tax, and that the board is authorized to use these funds as permitted by the Community Mental Health Act. So that's the piece that we need to sort of fix what we don't have right now. So that's what then we were asking you for approval of this drafted ordinance so that we can move it forward.
Yeah, this has been a labor of love here because so many hours have gone into this, and Paul Carpenter has been such a big help and advocate to get this wording. So I think it's critical that we move this forward as well, because this would also have to go to the Finance Committee of the board to be approved.
That's right. That's correct.
Well, if just a comment, I thank Dick and Paul, and I've had a chance to read it a couple times, and it certainly I'm very supportive of it. I guess the one question I have is, doesn't the full Winnebago County Board have any sort of ultimate right of entering in? If, you know, let's say they believe that we were acting in some fashion that was not consistent with our charge, do they then, by assuming that they approve this, they give up any right to say, we don't like what you're doing?
I don't think so.
So,
Say that, oh, go ahead.
so if this ordinance were passed, it can, anything that the board passes by ordinance, they can undo by ordinance. So if they decide that they don't, that they want to take the control back, they can do that anytime, really, passing an ordinance.
Okay.
Whether it's because they don't think the mental health board is doing what they should be doing, or it's because they want to do something else. Either way,
Got it.
do that. So.
Does that act that the mental health, what it was called, the Mental Health Act, I think, does that preclude us from having conversations with law enforcement agencies and that type of thing?
No.
Okay.
Oh, Jay, this gives us, you know, what everything that we need in order to have communication with the community about what kind of system of care they want. We want to develop with them, okay, to address community needs.
Okay, I thought that would be the answer, but I just, you know.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, I think that the part of the problem is it needs to be resolved in Springfield is the connection between the Counties Act that authorized the sales tax and the Mental Health Act that authorizes a property tax.
Mhm.
Don't create a clear connection. But I think ultimately the county board does control our budget. I think our argument is once they approve our budget, it's for us to determine how that budget is spent. I think. I'm not sure, Paul.
Well, and the 708 boards, through the 708 Board Act, they always, you know, what they do is develop their budget, go ahead and do what they want to do in terms of developing their grant proposals, et cetera, and then report all of that to the county board. So the county board, you know, ultimately knows generally how the money is being spent. So because, you know, obviously this is a county tax. And so therefore, we always are existing in needing to report to the county board. I think the other analogy that I think of is something like the airport board or some of the other entities that exist within the county. You know, this adds to the array of groups that are operating under the.
I would suggest that, I'm ready to make a motion if people are ready to.
Great, good, thanks.
Yes.
Thank you, Julie.
Mhm.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the ordinance and by Julie Morris, and then we have a second by Danielle Angelari. Any further discussion?
Could I just kind of set out what this would do? Or so the motion would be to approve, I assume Mary Ann and Dick presenting this ordinance to the Finance Committee. And
Yes,
then it's up to the Finance Committee whether they want to pass it and send it to the full board or not. Or it'll go to the full board either way, but and then the full
Yeah.
board will have to approve it. So just so everybody knows what the process will be. And
right.
Finance Committee usually meets every other week. They meet tomorrow and then so they would meet again 2 weeks from tomorrow usually. So everybody knows that for this, and that's you know, that goes for this and also the budget, the preliminary budget we talked about earlier.
Okay. Yeah, so that's good for Ed to know the date. Okay, so moving ahead, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. So we have agreed to approve the ordinance moving forward to the Finance Committee for approval and then on to the full board. So thank you all for your input and good discussions about these agenda items. And then actually, this has been a pretty efficient meeting because I've got very efficient people on this board. But the final agenda item is the Children's Mental Health Committee discussion. And I, out of respect for the System of Planning Committee for Children's Mental Health in Winnebago County that have been working together for a year, they had questions of our board, and I thought I would just share them with you. They're looking at the steps moving forward. This particular committee that, you know, really did their own environmental scan for children's mental health services and gaps in our region, and are now about to take action steps. They were wondering if it would be appropriate to present to our board their analysis of the gaps in services needed. And then also, would the board be interested in making this Youth Mental Health Committee a standing committee of the board? And the third question, or should the committee continue at all, their committee, do they need to continue? So one of our next steps was to engage the community. That's the first action step. They were going to take the information they've gained to the community. Would our board recommend that they continue on that path? So I wanted to just have this conversation with our board because I've been a part of the other committee for over a year. And I know the hours of work that has gone into the exploration of the children's mental health needs in our community. Certainly, they're extremely valuable. Many of them are providers for children's mental health services. They have their stakeholders are, I mean, they are invaluable to us as well. So I really just wanted to throw it out to our board to discuss. I don't think we have to take immediate action on any of these. And I did want to make note, because Danielle can also confirm this. We are getting requests for different groups to come and speak to our board. And just a side conversation, Dick and I, after I received these questions, it seems a bit premature if their intention is to receive funding. That's the whole purpose, for them to come and present. I don't know that we're ready for that. We have not received any feedback yet, from our environmental scan. So I think if their intention is to do that, I, as a board member, feel that would be premature. But at the same time, I certainly don't want to see this group, disband or whatever. I think that, their input is very valuable. So I'll leave it at that. Any other?
I think it makes all the sense in the world to have them come and present to us what work they've already done.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind having them come and present. I mean, let's hear what's being done and what they have to say. I mean, that's what we're here for. We're here to listen to that and see if it's worthy of our time and money. So I say, yeah, bring them in. Absolutely.
I agree, Mary Ann. I was just going to say, with the caveat that, as long as they know we're not in a position yet to receive a request for funding, but if you and others who are aware of this group feel that they have valuable information, I'd love to hear what they have to say about gaps and what systems in place right now and what's missing.
And personally, I feel like each of us have our sort of silo of knowledge. It would be nice to hear from a broad range of community organizations so that we're all kind of in some similar knowledge base when we're deciding what the next steps are, So I think it's useful.
Okay. And would you suggest that they present at our next meeting?
Well, could I just raise one other point? Would the slippery slope be thinking into the future? Would other stakeholder groups say, well,
yeah,
they began to hear preliminary pitches? That could be the word. Someone could use that phrase. We better get in there, even though we know they're not accepting requests for funding yet. If we get in there, they're going to be thinking about us. I mean, just hearing what they do, Mary Ann, I would really like to hear from them, but I don't know if you and Dick and Danielle and others who have a lot more knowledge say, well, there's another 10 or 15 groups kind of circling out there who are going to want to do the same sort of thing. That's something I don't know.
Well, just in response to that concern, I can honestly tell you the Community Foundation actually gave them a grant for the year to do this analysis. And they used Northern Illinois University in terms of constructing a survey that went out to over 168 stakeholders. And we're talking schools all the way to churches, anyone that's involved with providing children's mental health. So the data they have collected and their final analysis regarding children's mental health is probably not duplicative of any other group that I know of in our community.
That's great.
And if I may, wait a minute, am I cutting somebody off? I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, go ahead.
I was just saying that, and Bill, to kind of take your words a little bit further, it would be a pretty good idea for the community to know that we exist. A lot of people probably don't know that there is a mental health board right now. And by getting the word out and having other entities want to at least come and talk to us, it's a good thing. it's at least positive that our name is getting out there, that there is such a board.
I think at this juncture, I think the value coming from this particular group is the data that they have to share with us, not the request for financing. But just, you know, and we would value that from any group that had collected a specific data on mental health and substance abuse that would enlighten us, and hopefully with the environmental scan we're sending soon, hopefully, we're going to get a lot of this feedback in terms of other entities that are involved in collecting of any of this kind of data in our community. But it makes sense because they're so similarly aligned with us, but they're focused. So,
I think it's a great idea to have them come speak, and I do believe that like both groups, both us and the youth system of mental health care kind of have decided to take the same first step and like scan in the community. So I think that we do need that data, but also granted, I love all of the people on that committee. I think we're kind of doing the same thing, and maybe it would make sense for them to act as a committee under the mental health board. That's my opinion.
I think we should listen to what they can offer and then discuss how that would.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
Let's do
And
it.
at the end of the day, I think hooking that group up with Jason, assuming that that happens, and other groups that have been doing research, including like the United Way and Alignment Rockford, you know, I think is going to help Jason sort through the mountain of data that he's going to have and need to present to us so we can make some decisions.
You're right on that.
Great point.
Okay, I don't think we need a motion on that. I just wanted the discussion, and then I'll extend the invitation. So when Dan Major sends out a Zoom, I can make sure that Pam Clark Reidenbach, that is the facilitator for that group. And coincidentally, Jason is the convener because he's trained in the collective impact. So he has been like the mainstay for that group. So he has a lot of insight into the mental health world here in Rockford. So that's that. So any other matters? That's the next agenda.
Hey, two real quick things, Marianne. One, Jay mentioned earlier that he sent out, I don't know if anybody had a chance to look at any of those videos, and I must admit I'm only about halfway through one of them. But if folks get a chance, really powerful regarding policing and those with mental illness and how police approach. And it's just something he's spoken to us in this group about his passion for education. And I just commend him for it. And I'm going to be sure to watch the rest of what I started today. And the second thing is I just can't remember, the indemnification language in the R1 agreement made me think about the D&O insurance for us. Did we decide that that's something that R1 would also be exploring on our behalf? I can't remember.
Oh, I'm glad you brought it up. Actually, I brought that to R1 at the same time that I asked him for a service agreement. We are not eligible through their the board is not eligible to receive any kind of insurance through R1. So he did make that clear. But Wendy, this was she was going to kind of look into this. So,
well, so two things, one of two things. I'm going to suggest, Paul, that you, as part of this budget request, that we also ask that the county board add us to their indemnification policy. Barring that, Kathy Pomahawk, who's the director of the Carrie Lynn Children's Center, had a policy written for our 501c3, and I can talk to her husband about that more specifically if you would like me to, and ask him to present us with like a directors and officers insurance policy and see what the cost would be. I don't think it would be hugely expensive, but I don't know, so. But I think we're a county entity. I think the county should indemnify us.
I'll,
To know.
All smiling.
Yeah. I'll talk to Steve Chapman and see if there's, or Ian Johns, who's the director of purchasing, and see if there's a way to get like a rider added to the county policy.
That would be excellent. So,
All for it. I don't know if it's possible.
Well,
I can talk.
a good question is, like, Terry works in an advisory capacity with the sheriff's department. I wonder if his volunteer work is covered, and wouldn't we be in the same bucket? Just
Not
a thought.
necessarily, because it's the community mental health board is more independent than the sheriff's department.
Yeah,
So I'm sure
right.
it's covered under the sheriff's.
Okay.
Insurance.
So if you do your piece, I'll contact Steve Pomahawk and see what's what on the private end.
I appreciate that. I think that's important.
Okay.
Yeah, it is, Bill.
yeah, it is. It's something we should resolve. Well, in summary, I want to, again, thank you all for moving our agenda items ahead. We actually accomplished a great deal. You don't know. These are huge steps. We just have to keep pushing them forward now. But so at this point in time, I am going to talk with Ed. He's teaching a class, so he had to get off, I'm assuming. And then ask him to send the budget to Paul. And then, Paul, do you need any more conversation with any one of us to create this resolution that Marilyn said you would be able to create to accompany the budget?
No, I don't think so. As far as creating the resolution goes, I'll let you know when we get it on the finance committee agenda, which, like I said, I assume will be 2 weeks from tomorrow.
Okay.
But whenever they meet again after tomorrow, it should be on their agenda, and then we'll want you and anybody else to.
Well, Ed will be a part of that as well, because being our treasurer, I
Oh,
think
right, yeah.
that Ed would be involved with that. But in far as the ordinance, Dick obviously would be the main person, but I would be happy to accompany him. So,
Anybody else, any other
please.
board members who wants to join us, feel free.
When is this?
in 2
It'll be
weeks,
in a couple of weeks.
Probably going to be 2 weeks from tomorrow at
Yeah.
5:30, 6 o'clock, something like that. So
Yeah,
so we're talking the 16th then?
that would be the 16th. Yeah.
All right, that sounds good. And then I will get back in touch with the R1 and let them know that we have approved a 3-month contract. And Wendy, I will rely on you giving me any language that they need to add to the agreement.
Okay, I did send a text to everybody, but I'll send it specifically to you.
Okay,
Also, can I suggest that I'm going to send everyone a link to the Alignment Rockford Erickson Institute data,
oh yeah,
because you can play with that, and there are specific overlays that have to do with physical and mental health regarding children in the city of Rockford. It's very fascinating
it is.
data that might also, as we're starting to educate ourselves more broadly, be very useful. So I'll send that to everybody in our internal email.
Okay. Any other matters?
Marianne, when the finance committee meeting is, could we get a calendar invite and where that would be if you'd like us to, so if we can come, we should be there.
Fabulous. So we will inform you all of that. And right now it looks like July 16th, and they're usually, those meetings begin earlier, don't they? Like 5:30, am I right, or Paul?
I think so.
Yeah, they usually So what usually happens is they have 2 or 3 or 4 committee meetings. One starts at 5:30 and then they follow each other, and finance is usually not the first one. So it's
Yeah, that's true.
not the easiest scheduling, but yeah.
But definitely we'll get that out to you. Okay. All right, any other matters?
Move for adjournment.
Right, and one clarification, we did the last board meeting agree to set this board meeting for the first Wednesday of every month at 2:00 in the afternoon. So it's a standing meeting, and that way people can go ahead and just make sure that they keep that here on their calendar. Okay? So,
If Dan could just send like a permanent Zoom ID, like put it in the calendar, and then when it pops up, we automatically have the Zoom link. That would be very simple.
Dan, can that be done? He's right there.
Yeah, if you're scheduling a reoccurring meeting,
We are.
use
It's
the same, it will use the same meeting ID. So when it sends out that calendar invite, it'll show up in the calendar invite for you. So remember, when you get the email for the calendar invite, as soon as you accept it or decline it, it will no longer show up in your inbox. It'll only show up in the calendar.
Oh, okay.
So you
Okay.
have to reference it through the calendar portion.
very helpful. Okay, if there's no other matters, can I have a motion for adjournment?
You had one.
Second. Gary, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, well, have a wonderful 4th.
Stay healthy. Stay healthy, everyone.
Yeah, happy
Yeah.
4th of July.
Take care, and nice having you listen, Joe.